Hi everyone and welcome to the station on Padlet. Padlet is definitely a go-to tool for me because it's like a blank digital wall. I can do all kinds of stuff on this blank digital wall, and as I get more comfortable, I start thinking of way creative ways that I can use this. In this station, I'm going to show you some examples that have been created by other teachers. We're going to work on a Padlet, and then you're going to think of a way that you might use it in your classroom to maybe substitute for some other form of assessment that you're doing. I love Padlet. So let's go look at what it can do, how teachers are using it, and come up with ways that you might use it in your classroom to kind of substitute for a more traditional form of assessment. Hi everyone, I want to orient you with Padlet. Here's an example that I used recently to have my students who were reading a bunch of different stories tell me about the story that they read. And they gave a picture from the story that they read. They left comments on each other's to ask questions, and that's how I knew that they were reading something, but that they could learn from others what stories were interesting, because we were going to be using these stories to write our own. Here's another example of a Padlet. This one is done from a high school class that was using it to turn in manifestos. If you've seen me talk about manifestos, these are a little bit different as they were done for a media class. And so as they turned them in, they just wrote about what they felt inspired them. And so that period one could see period twos, and it wasn't just a turn in that you only saw the people in your class. So this is a great way to turn things in outside of Google Classroom that allows kids to see each other's work. And it's seeing this work that is super important, because when kids get to see the responses of other kids their age, they can compare their answer with other students' responses. And that sends them into a state of metacognition, which is a very important thing that we can do now with these new learning tools. Often teachers aren't thinking about the real importance of this metacognitive experience because we didn't have it happen to us as kids. But we need to allow this for our students so that they can learn from each other, and we can do a quick assessment of what they were able to accomplish and have them explain their thinking to us. So this is Padlet. We're going to go in now and learn how to make a Padlet, and at the end, you'll be making your first Padlet maybe, or going in and trying a different Padlet that you haven't made yet. So let's get started. Okay, to get to Padlet, you simply go to padlet.com and sign up using your Google account. Padlet comes, I believe, with 3 free Padlets, but your school can get you an account, or you can sign up for one on your own. It's one of those expenses that I find I would have to make if my school didn't pay for it. To make a Padlet, I go up to this pink add button to make a Padlet, and it's going to give me a dashboard with 8 different kinds of Padlets I can do. One is a wall, which puts it into brick-like layout. Then there's canvas, where kids can scatter it. There's a stream, which is just one square after one square after one square, kind of like a blog. There's a grid, which I use a lot. I also use this shelf one a lot because I can ask a bunch of different questions that kids respond to underneath that question itself. The back channel, which I'm starting to use more as we're reading, kids are back channeling about things they find interesting, whether we're reading about content or reading a novel. They can make a map of interesting things. I'm going to show you an example of this later. I have actually not used this one in a classroom, and then they can make a timeline. This one is actually very interesting. We're going to start with the grid, so I hit select. It's going to dish up a Padlet to me that already has a background. I don't have to keep that. So some of the first things that I want to do is give my Padlet a title. I always do practice when I'm making these, and here's where you can put a description, like answer the question below with detail. I can have an icon, and the icon, let me just put one up so you can see where it goes. I don't use it all the time, but it goes there. So if I wanted, I could have a smiley face. And then this is the address that I can put into my Google Classroom. So I just have to copy this and place it in Google Classroom, and this Padlet appears perfectly there. I can change the background, and I can change it from a solid color, a gradient, a texture, or a pattern. So I'm actually going to change this one to a notebook. Now, using the arrow, I head back and I can look at some of these options for posting. I can allow kids to make comments, which I think is really important, and I love that. I can ask for attribution, but this is tricky because it makes them sign in, and then I got a bunch of kids telling me they can't sign in. So I kind of stay away from that because I don't want my email to be all cluttered with kids who apparently all of a sudden can't get in. I can change the position of the post as they go on, and I can also allow for reactions. And in these, I can do likes, I can do vote up if you really like that one, I can have stars or grade. I wouldn't do this one, but I do all the time use like and vote up. And then I can filter profanity. I do, because I teach kids who might use that. And if I were doing something that was really important for kids not to see the other kids' examples at first, I could require approval. When I'm done, I go to next, and it's ready. And you can start posting. Remember, I have to go back and grab this link right here and put that on my Google Classroom. I like to do it in an assignment, but I could also do it with material. And then when kids get here, they can come down to this little add button, this red add button at the bottom right-hand corner, and this is how they begin to post. I like to teach kids how to do this because where it says title, I like them to put their name so I know that they responded. They can respond by writing something. They can bring in something from the web, and I don't know, I guess this is Holly Clark. And I could go and get an image from my computer. So here they could actually talk about their learning if I wanted. I would probably go to Flipgrid for that. And they can also upload something. And this is something I do a lot. I have them upload examples of work that they've done. They could write a reflection here. And this could be somewhere where they turn stuff in. And that's different from Google Classroom because once they turn stuff in here, I can see it and they can see each other's. And I really appreciate them being able to see each other's because they learn best from each other. When they can see their response up against other student responses, it sends them into a state of metacognition as they compare parts that they might have missed talking about, or maybe they see, wow, I talked about a lot of stuff and other kids didn't. It's a really important metacognitive process that most teachers aren't using because it wasn't used on us because we didn't have tools like this. So never underestimate the power of having kids see each other's work. And if we remember back to the beginning of this video, when students were turning in their work, they could see the work of different periods and they could go and look at those responses and compare those ideas to their own. So Padlets can be used in many different ways. So what you're going to do is two things. You're going to go look through some example Padlets that people have created from the link on the site with your learning station. Then when you're done, you're going to go make your first Padlet. At the top, you're going to say what it is. You're going to ask your question or whatever it is you want students to put there. Finally, you're going to find the link. Let's remember where that is. The link is right here. And you're going to put that link on Google Classroom. You're going to come back to this particular Padlet that you will find on your learning station. And you're going to answer these questions. So head back to the site and find those additional activities for you to accomplish. I think you're going to really love Padlet.